It's the Kenneth L. Johnson Show live on WPPM 106.5 Philadelphia. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson. Look, excited to be here today. Philly, what's good? If you're riding in your car, if you're listening at home, if you're streaming globally on the 106.5 FM app or website, we appreciate you. Also, we're streaming live on LinkedIn, so all my LinkedIn people, please do not hesitate to check in with us here. And we'll try to maybe get some questions answered today. I'm not sure if we want to do that because I know it's going to be a full conversation. All right, Philly, I need to talk to you about something. You know I love you. You check in with me each and every Monday. It's supposed to rain today, maybe even some lightning. Don't worry about it. Still go to South Philly and check out the FIFA matches, man. I saw y'all out on Lemon Hill, 55,000 people out there celebrating football, as they'll call it, the real one. And I thought that was amazing. So show up down at, I guess, what are they calling it now? Philadelphia Stadium. Show up there for the World Cup. I don't know, get some ponchos, sit out in the rain, celebrate. It's a party. Sometimes at parties you get a little wet. So with that being said, I hope you guys make it out today. Listen, I want to talk to you about my weekend. This was a weekend that I planned, I don't know, all year. I plan all year, all life. I plan for this weekend. So I'm here on the radio station in Philly one day a week. But for one day out of the year, I get to take over Harlem, New York. One day, they give me one day. And that day was June 20th. We did TEDx Harlem in Harlem, New York City. It was amazing. We had 8 amazing speakers. Shout out to all of you for being wonderful. But more importantly, too, shout out to Harlem for coming through at the Apollo stages and celebrating our efforts to amplify the voices of some great people with some great ideas. I'm appreciative, and I just want to say thank you because many of those people lock in with me for the Kenneth L. Johnson Show. So speaking of locking in with me for the Kenneth L. Johnson Show, today it's going to be special. I have a gentleman here with me that I really admire. I had the opportunity to meet Donald Thompson originally at a Black Men Excel event. I don't know what state, city we were in. I'm going to say Orlando. It could have been National Harbor. I can't remember. But shout out to Alfred Edmond and the crew over there at BE for allowing me to meet this gentleman. I moderated the panel that Donald was on, and he completely did his thing. And I stayed connected. That's what I do. I'm a recruiter, right? I stay connected with incredible people. So I stayed connected with Donald Thompson. He is here on the Kenneth L. Johnson Show today. I almost said the Career Seeker Show. Haven't done a Career Seeker Show in about 6-7 years. So that was strange that came out. Shout out to Alberta and shout out to Tiffany, Bruce Savage, Will Martin. But more importantly, let's shout out Donald Thompson. Donald, welcome to the Kenneth L. Johnson Show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I remember specifically when we met at that panel. It was National Harbor outside of DC, and I'll never forget. It was a great time.
Well, it was an excellent time. I'm excited to have you here today. It's going to be an amazing conversation. Look, if you don't mind, tell our audience a little bit about yourself. I'm going to do a little housekeeping over here, but tell our audience a little bit about yourself, please.
So, for lack of a better term, right, I would call it a serial entrepreneur. I like to build things from clay, build them up into something significant. And oftentimes a larger organization will pay a little money for that skill set. And so I like working with entrepreneurs at this stage in my career, C-suite level executives as a business advisor. And my full-time day-to-day role is I'm the managing director for the Center of Organizational Effectiveness at an organization called Workplace Options. So I spend my day helping people bring out the best in them. Whether it's in this environment, which is a crazy economic time, or steady state, there are some tips and tricks where you can take your career to the next level.
Man, taking careers to the next level is really important. And that's kind of what we're going to discuss a little today. You know, I wanted to have this conversation with you because I'm seeing a lot of things going on in the workplace with, I don't know, technology, companies kind of scaling back a little. I'm seeing a lot of movement, people job hugging, people job running. It's just really wild out here. It's the wild, wild west, Donald. So I wanted to bring in an expert to talk about it, man. What I'm seeing out here is that executives are pivoting as well. So have you seen some of this?
Absolutely. The AI tsunami, the political environment we're in, the economy ups and downs is touching everyone. So no one is immune. And so folks at when you're early in your career and you want to pivot, it doesn't cost you anything. It's easy. You can switch it up. It's not as difficult. When you're at an executive level and you spent 10, 15, 20 years rising in a space, building a network, building credibility, building out your competencies, and now all of a sudden you think of pivot as a loss. When the reality is you're taking your knowledge, judgment, and expertise, and you're just pointing that energy in a new direction to solve a new problem. It doesn't mean you're leaving the legacy of success behind. It's you're taking that operating system that you've built, that you Inc., if you will, and you're pointing it at a new problem that people are willing to pay for today.
Oh, I'm going to take that one. You Inc. I'm going to take that one. I always say that we are all a business of one, but you Inc. is sounding really good. Look for those t-shirts coming out soon. All right. So Donna, look, many people think career pivots are for early career professionals, but what does a successful pivot look like for executives and senior leaders?
So for executives and senior leaders, the biggest thing that I advise, I think about myself, is what problem are you solving that is relevant in today's economy? And the reason that is a super important question is because if you're solving a relevant problem in today's economy, you can create revenue from it. People will still pay for it, right? So one of the examples that I use is this, right? Think about going into a movie theater, and people still like going to the movies, even though we have all this stuff at home and streaming. There's something about the big screen, right? But you pay $7 or $8 for the same water you could get at Costco for 58 cents. And it's because of the packaging, not necessarily what's in it. And because of the location and packaging in that movie theater, you pay a premium for it. So if you are in the technology business, okay, that's commoditized. If you are in the AI implementation, the AI workforce readiness business, then you can charge a premium. When in actuality, you're still adopting technology, but you packaged it differently to align it with what people are willing to pay for today. So the key with the executive pivot is learning how to link your skills, resources, network, judgment to today's problems that can use yesterday's skills. And then you learn a little bit of nuance around the edges, right, to increase your relevancy. But it is a packaging issue. It's a marketing issue.
Okay, I love it. It's all about marketing and packaging, branding, things of that nature. All right, so as we speak about that, for senior level executives who may have not been in the job search space in a while, that packaging and branding requires a different set of tools now. What are you seeing that people are using or leveraging, or how are they making this transition to tell their stories about success?
So a couple of things not to do, and then I'll get to what should do, right? Not to do is think that Claude and Chat is going to write you a compelling resume when thousands of people are using the same thing and you are jumping into the sea of sameness, right? So that's number one. You can use these tools to help you get started. But what I've done personally, and one of my career pivots is I want to serve on more corporate boards. So I had to say, how important is this for me? And because it is, I invested in working with an organization to craft my board resume because that's what they do. In addition to creating that board resume, they're also giving me access to their network of individuals who have recruited and retained and hired people for board work to advise me. So the thing that I think about most importantly when I'm thinking about executives ready to pivot is think about the expertise you have and then the expertise you need to go out and get, right? So that you can be unique in the marketplace. So yes, the AI tools are a good place to start, but you need a human level expert that can help you craft your story for the market you want to go and be a part of in the new economy.
Man, a human level expert, always important. We talk about that at my firm, East Coast Executives, right? Real jobs, real candidates. real resumes, things that real is in front of everything because there's so much stuff out here that's being generated through some of these LLM models and things of that nature. All right, so let's talk about this, knowing when it's time. So what are the signals that tell an executive leader it's time to pivot or to reinvent themselves or just to pursue a new challenge?
A lot of times, Kenneth, and I know that you can relate to this, we get tied to, or we see people that are tied to the title and the status on their business card. That's not necessarily what you do. If you look at my business card and it says CEO, entrepreneur, it says consultant, or it says business strategist, things that an organization grants me that title, or a company that I built. But the reality is I build products and services that helps people have more success in their professional and personal lives. So what I do is different than the status. So if you're chasing status, you may miss the opportunity to do the things that not only are you passionate about, not only are they profitable, that your skills meet the moment, right? And so it's really important to figure out what set of skills that you have or that you can attain that are going to meet the moment. And so as executives look at how do they know when it's time to pivot, you don't. Here's the thing, but you need to be ready because somebody else can determine your pivot sequence. Layoffs, downsizing. Somebody may change your role, right, in a way that's not pleasing to you. So I don't necessarily have the right answer of when an individual is ready to pivot. That's more of a personalized situation. But all of us that are listening need to be ready for it because we're living in a sea of uncertainty. And so we need to be thinking about the tools, the relationships, our own personal branding. I'll say this, Kenneth, and I'll hush. I'm one question away from a seminar, as you know.
Let's do it.
But I spent a lot of time and just recently invested in a firm called Executive Brand Authority, where we help business executives rebrand themselves, create thought leadership. Even if you're going to stay in your current role, the more that your professional credibility grows, the stronger position you have inside your current company. If you're going to pivot to a new business, people are going to do their research. So the more articles you've written, the stronger you show up on LinkedIn, the book that you've written, the more you get an opportunity to talk to folks like Kenneth on the radio or on LinkedIn Live, allows people to see the authentic you. And that's what people want to hire, partner with, or promote, not the algorithm. And so the AI tools of the day are going to help us with the research. They're going to help us with the commodity work, but there's still going to be a need for leaders that can create unique levels of scale and high quality judgment. And in order to do that, you got to brand you.
Let's talk about this a little, about that authenticity. I think oftentimes people are in situations and they're front facing and some people are uncomfortable with that, but at the executive level, that should be a place where you're pretty comfortable and pretty skilled. However, we find, I saw it Saturday, CEOs coming up to me at TEDx Harlem saying, I'm really nervous, right? I don't know about this, right? This is day of event. So when people are out here as an executive and they're reaching out and networking, but networking with an edge towards finding a new opportunity, how do they adjust to being in that place where now they're the ones in need of support?
Here's what I recommend for folks, and I really appreciate the question because at the executive level, people look at you like you've made it, your title and stature and different things, and now you have to humble yourself, right, and re-enter a marketplace in a different role. The thing that helps me anytime I'm doing something different is I seek out experts that want to share information and insight. And so I get in the learning mode. And so when I'm talking to people about anything new, in this example, you're talking about executives that are looking to pivot, job search, different things, but this could be learning a new technology, how to get promoted at your current role. I find experts that have done what I'm trying to do or anywhere close. And I say, can I ask you a few questions? Are there any points of insight you can share? I'm trying to learn this new dance step. Are there any podcasts that you've listened to? Are there any executive recruiters, right, like Kenneth in your firm, that really would sit with me, even if it's 20, 25 minutes, and give me a powerful point of view, right? Based on my personality and my skills. So the honest and the direct answer is there's a little bit of humility required because most of us haven't been in that learning mode. We've been in the teaching mode. And now you got to be in the learning mode and representing yourself to a market. And that takes a different temperament, right? But here's the thing that I'll say that I really appreciate. Whenever I ask talented people for help, they might not have a moment right then, but they'll schedule it and we'll get it on the calendar. Most people that have really succeeded are always willing to lift a helping hand, right? The narrative of selfishness that's out there, the narrative of us against them, I don't see that as much across color, across age, across generation. It is really successful people and not successful people. And people that are out here winning, right? No, they might need a favor someday too. So they will turn around and say, look, here's my network. What do you need? How can I help? Right? Because they want to pay it forward in the future if they have a need.
You know, people always refer to me as a connector. I find great value and actually actual pride in connecting people. Someone asked me yesterday, what was the single most inspiring thing that happened on Saturday at TEDx Harlem? And I told her, I said, I had the opportunity to introduce Sherelle Dorsey with Bethany Nonami, and they are going to do something amazing. I know it's going to happen because just knowing the two of them and what they do, they're going to do something amazing. And that like meant the world to me on a day where everything was going right. But that was a moment in that day that I really thought about. It's the Kenneth L. Johnson Show live, WPPM 106.5 FM, Philadelphia. We are here with Donald Thompson. Donald, listen, as we kind of move this conversation along, I want to talk about pivoting in the age of AI. Organizations evolve through AI and digital transformation, but what pivots should today's leadership be making to maintain influential and really indispensable in their approach to securing the next job?
So a couple of things that I've done personally, right? And this is helping me in my current role. It'll help me in the future. Is I've got over 5 different AI related certifications. I went to a Harvard AI strategy conference and I've really personally invested in my own upskilling, right? In and around the different AI technologies and how they impact work. So number one is you've got to get fluent in this new technology aligned with your role. The second thing I think is really, really important is machines are picking the winners, right? People aren't going to search and Chrome and all the different things in Google in the same way. They're using the LLMs as their first point of contact when they have questions. And so if you or your company are not showing up, right, in these algorithms, you are really invisible. And so you've got to rethink how you build your brand, how you build out thought leadership for you and your company so that you show up, right, when people are asking the AI tools, right, about the best consultant in X, the top trend leaders to watch in manufacturing, in thought leadership, in technology, right? And so the third thing I would say in terms of the AI tsunami is don't believe the hype that everybody knows what they're doing and that you missed it. You didn't. Okay. People are still trying to figure this out, right? It is such a transformational set of events and tools that people are still struggling how to actually apply them in a business way that creates real return on investment. And so one, that personal investment of education. Number two, looking at your involvement in AI related task force, committee, workflow management in your current role, because the thing that you need more than anything else is the experience of taking your current work product and then seeing how AI makes that work product better. Not how AI replaces you, but how AI enhances what you do, right? It's almost like you could cut your grass with scissors or you could have a lawnmower, right? We've got to stop cutting our grass with scissors and use that AI tool, right, to allow us to be smarter, faster, and then allow our human judgment and experience to shine.
So you jumped in pretty heavy on getting the certifications, and that's really impressive for someone kind of in the space that you're in. What's the one thing that you've noticed through that process that you didn't expect coming in?
That's a very good question. The biggest thing that I learned throughout all the different certifications is curiosity is now a superpower. Once you learn how to ask questions in the way the machines speak and learn, you now can get new answers and new insights incredibly fast. And because I have a lot of experience across technology, workforce readiness, marketing and distribution, I can now hone my skills in a specific area of business really, really quickly because I still know and understand what good looks like. The challenge with AI tools is when and this is something I'll share really, really quickly. And I asked AI, what makes me a quality user? Most people will take one or two answers from Claude or from chat. It looks good and sounds good, and then they'll push it out, send it out, print it out. And I asked AI, are your first two answers high quality? And the answer was no. My first two answers are guesses.
Wow.
After you and I interact, once we get to the seventh or eighth point of the conversation, now what I'm doing is interpreting your words to give you researched information about how to communicate your thinking in a powerful way. But the first one or two responses you get from an LLM is its best guess. And people are pushing a best guess out as their information and putting their name at, and that's crazy. That will cost you money, create risk, all the things. So, Kenneth, the biggest thing I learned is AI is a tool. And in order to use that tool, you've got to study how that tool operates. And then you can learn how to get the best out of it and make it create authentic content for you faster. And that's what I've learned how to do.
That's amazing. It's the executive leadership series. So I have to ask this question from our show standpoint, right? In the framework that we like to operate in. How are you navigating this as far as your team is concerned? When the people on your team are leveraging AI and producing things that are coming back to you, how are you adjusting to that? It has to be an adjustment.
It is a huge adjustment. And unfortunately, what it does is pushes average work forward faster. And so you really have to slow down and make sure that you have a team and an organizational understanding of how to use AI in the context of the business that you're in. You have to train and educate your team. I'll give an example. I was working on reviewing a white paper for one of the areas that we're working on. The title of the white paper is AI's impact on culture and performance. And so it's a pretty detailed look at how AI is driving the next generation of performance, but also the cultural impact, right? The anxiety it's creating, people thinking they're going to lose their job, all the different things. I'm able to very clearly spot something that is AI, but the human put thoughtful thinking versus AI just putting a lot of smart words together. Right. And so I still make sure that I internally review anything that's going to have my name or a company that I represent on it because it's making people lazier. Because AI is good enough at getting something to 70 to 80%. And to most people, that looks and sounds good. But if you're selling to leadership, if you're selling to experts in their space, they're not looking for average. They're looking for differentiated thinking, right? And so I highly encourage people to invest in educating their team on the AI ground rules for their organization. What does good look like? And how to use AI as a tool to accelerate, but not to replace thinking, judgment, and unique positioning that still comes from experts that have a pulse.
Really important to come from that place. I can appreciate that answer. So I want you to give some advice from a multi-exit entrepreneur lens, right? I mean, you've built and exited multiple companies. So looking back, what's the one career decision that seemed unconventional at the time, but ultimately accelerated your leadership journey?
I can come to this one really fast. So when we removed my last company that we built to, and we recently exited, I hired a PR communication specialist as a very early hire without really having the full revenue to justify it, because any business is only as strong as its storytelling. And so what I found, and this was 5 years ago when we launched the last business, we sold it 2 years ago, but the issue with kind of pushing through the noise in the economy and all of the digital stuff that's out there is creating a compelling and unique story and distributing that story across a lot of different platforms so that people start to know you, trust you, and then they'll do business with you because you're building that brand. And through that investment, I was recognized in Forbes. It's Forbes 1000, Next 1000. It was recognized in Inc. magazine. One of our products was featured in Fast Company, right? But it was because I was EY Entrepreneur of the Year for the Southeast. I'm still the same guy, but because I hired this world-class communication specialist, the same guy was known by tens of thousands of more people that then drove revenue back to us because we had built that brand. And so that's the biggest learning that I'll stay with me, is that communications, that PR, that branding specialist, both for you as an individual, but for a company, is really, really critical. Last thing I'll say is most people don't know that 30% of the value of their business is based on the brand of the executive. So when I'm talking to entrepreneurs, I'm saying, what are you doing about building your personal brand? Because investors, private equity, people that you want to hire are looking at 50 companies that look like you. People gravitate to you to the level that you're unique and the level that you create a unique opportunity for them.
You know, there are many ways to build a brand, but as an executive, is there a focus point for you? What should people be focused in on building their leadership brand, executive presence? Where do they need to land?
I have lots of opinions on this. I think the first step for most people is to share the things that you've accomplished in a way that is helpful to others. You don't want to be a brand that comes across, I did this, I'm so amazing, versus I've started and sold a handful of businesses. Here's what I think you should consider before you build a business, right? I'm giving you some hard-earned nuggets, and I'm sharing with you for your success, not my success. And so the tonality of your brand and thought leadership needs to be other-centered, right? You mentioned earlier in this conversation about being a connector. Well, being a connector by default is bringing two other organizations or people together. You didn't say be a connector and I get a piece of the action. You said be a connector. But what will happen is the more people you give to in that way, when you reached out and said, hey, Don, can I have you on the show? Absolutely. The answer is just yes.
Yes.
Because I know that you've paid it forward so many times. I want to be a part of that goodness that you're building. And then, yes, deals and dollars flow from that. But you want to be other-centered with your thought leadership in the beginning. And I think that's really important.
Well, you are definitely a part of it, my friend. I value you and appreciate you and consider you a friend. And I want to thank you for coming on the show today. Before we close, would you please let our audience here on WPPM 106.5 FM, streaming globally and broadcasting on LinkedIn, know how they can stay connected with Donald Thompson and the work you're doing?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. And so the things that I do full-time in organizational change, I have a handful of books. The Employee Engagement Handbook is out there. We're really talking about folks being engaged. And then personally, you can just go to donaldthompson.com. So those are the two ways that you can connect. And thank you for the space to offer that.
Anytime, man. You have an open invite to come back to the Kenneth L. Johnson Show live on WPPM 106.5. I appreciate you. My audience appreciates you. We did it again, Philly. I told you our executive leadership series is going to be like nothing you've ever seen. We're bringing the experts in. We had Lawrence Griffin from Digital Factory. We had Chris Martin, CEO of Sewickley Savings Bank. We had Kimberly Reed and all of that energy from Reed Development Group come to the table. And today we had Donald Thompson. Many more executives to come, but I'd like to thank you all for just riding out with us here on 106.5 FM Philadelphia. Again, it's the Kenneth L. Johnson Show. We do it each and every Monday here. Please don't hesitate. Go to the YouTube channel. Watch past episodes. Like, subscribe. We appreciate you, and you belong here. Thank you so very much. We'll see you next Monday.